Microphones muted, please. Alright, so today we are going to talk about Apex Trigger. Apex Trigger is the simple stuff. Okay, so here it's not something like a controller and then there is a visual force space. So there are not too many things in an Apex Trigger. It's a simple stuff. An Apex code that you want to execute on a DML operation. As simple as that. So whenever someone tries to save a record or someone is updating a record or someone is deleting a record, whenever some database change is happening, a record is being created, edited, deleted, at that time if you want to execute some code. Let's say before a record gets created, you want to check some criteria. Before a record can be updated, you want to check some other logic. Before a record can be deleted, you want to check certain things and then maybe throw an error or allow the delete or not allow the delete, right? These things can be done using Apex Trigger. Okay, so this is defining an Apex Trigger is very similar to the way you define a validation rule kind of thing, right? You just have to decide on which object you want to write the Apex Trigger for and for which event, right? What is Apex Trigger? Apex Trigger is the code block which you execute on one of the DML events. Executed on DML event. It can be on one DML event or multiple DML events. Okay. What all DML events are we talking about? We are talking about before insert. So before a record is created. After insert. Before update. After update. Before delete. After delete. And after delete. So these are the events on which you can call this Apex code. Okay, so you have to define when do you want your Apex code to get executed, and you have to write the code. So for Apex Trigger, all that you have to do is you have to identify the object, identify the logic that you want to execute, and on which event. Three things. What logic you want to execute, on which event, for which object. So for example, before a contact is created, you want to check whether email ID is given or not, or whether the email ID already exists or not. So this can be done easily with, using Apex Trigger. So whenever a new contact is creating, so in this case object is contact, logic is go and check in the existing email IDs if the email ID exists or not, and uh, the event is before insert, right, or before update. So that's how it is, right? So that's what we have to understand for Apex Trigger. It's very simple. Alright, so now since we have understood what exactly we do in Apex Trigger, let's also talk about the syntax of Apex Trigger. Apex Trigger syntax is pretty simple. It's written like trigger, name of trigger, on name of the object, event needs to be written here, and your code will come here, code block. That's it. That's what you need to do for defining a trigger. So you just start writing a trigger with the keyword trigger, and you will define name of a trigger, then you will give the name of the object on which you want to put the trigger, then you will give the event on which you want to execute the trigger and whatever code you want to execute. That's it. Alright, so that's how simple it is, creating an apex trigger, right? So let's take a simple example. Before I start talking about an example, tell me, are we clear on things so far? We have understood the event, we have understood what a trigger is, and we have also seen the syntax of the trigger. It's clear with everyone? Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rachna.
Okay. Sorry, your voice was breaking in between, so I could not hear.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, Jeet sir, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to know the triggers which we write.
Mm-hmm.
What is the purpose of it? Is it like we cannot achieve that functionality with the help of point and click thing, and that's the reason we are writing a trigger for it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct. Right.
So, can you give us some example when, suppose, currently, as you said, that we will identify if the email field is there while inserting before insert. We will validate it with the help of trigger. So, I think this can be achieved with the help of validation rule. So, why will we be using trigger in that case? So, what happens is, suppose I say that I'll be using
Very
some
good.
validation triggers in my
So,
current process. So what I want to know is what all are the examples of triggers which are used for validation and which cannot be done through validation rule or declarative methods.
very good. Very nice. See, this what can be done through validation, what cannot be done through validation, I can definitely talk about one, two example, but I am pretty sure that you guys are in a position where you yourself will be able to decide. Think of any logic and you should be able to decide whether it's possible through validation or not. Fine. Okay, fine.
Great.
I told you, Rachna, shall I finish? You want to ask something in
Yeah,
between?
sure. No, you finish
Okay.
first.
Fine. So point number one, whenever we are talking about a concept, initial sometime I would want you guys to focus on the topic, concept, understand that, right?
Okay.
So let's say I'm talking about we are sitting in Bangalore. I tell you let's go to Delhi.
Mm.
Now if you start imagining sitting here in Bangalore that what will be there in Delhi, why we are going to Delhi, then definitely you will not focus that much on the way to reach Delhi. What will happen when we reach Delhi? That's something which we will look once we reach Delhi. That's one. Second is, let's say you said okay, contact wala thing can be done. Okay, uh, this is something which can be done through validation also, and this is a simple example just to make you understand. The concept was not that this is the
Yeah.
biggest example of trigger. The concept was for you to understand that it is
Yeah.
before insert. Got it?
Yeah.
Now, since you understand that, you make it a little more complex yourself. I mean, I want you guys to start thinking. I can give you one example, two, three, four, five, but you can think
Yeah.
yourself. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
the company says that okay, fine, you don't create a contact if the same email ID is there in the lead
Deduplication.
table. No, deduplication we bhul jao. Same object छोड़ दो. Think about the same email ID is in the lead table.
Okay.
Now the validation rule does not work, no? Validation rule is
Yeah,
very
that is what I
simple.
wanted from you. Means I totally agree that we should go ahead with the basic concepts first. What I wanted to tell you was after this all, we should have some examples so that we will be more confident. Nothing else.
पहले concept तो समझ जाओ.
Uh-huh.
That is what you wanted,
Okay.
that's fine, but first of all focus on the concept. I do not know, or everyone might not understand the concept, or you might have a understanding about the concept. After that,
Yeah, yeah.
example, so that is why I am actually telling you about the concepts, because that after that one example you yourself will be doing. This is also a simple example. Whatever I am telling you, this is also a simple one. You can think of a little more complex thing. Okay? So focus on
Yes, sir.
what we are talking about, because there are very, very small, minute things uh, which I want you guys to understand. And once you understand the basics, after that it's just about writing the logic and putting that into context. Yeah, that's enough. You were asking something.
No, 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 that's it. Yeah.
नहीं नहीं पूछ लो.
नहीं नहीं,
अच्छा
मैं ऐसे
ठीक
कुछ
है.
पूछ नहीं रही थी, बस इसलिए ना.
चलो ठीक है. So the syntax part and everything is clear, how it is being defined. All right. Now let's take a simple example. We'll go with a simple example only. Let's say there is, there is a logic that I want to execute.
Okay.
That anytime an account is being created, try and understand this. Anytime an account is being created, if the industry of the account is education, I want to throw an error. Okay. If the industry of new account which is being created is education, then throw error. Okay. Now this can be done through validation rule again. Let's forget about validation rule for some time. Let's do it through trigger. So now you guys have to tell me which object shall I write this trigger on if I have to achieve this logic, my business logic. Microphones are mute, please. Some noise is coming from background. Maybe Naren. No.
No, not from my end at all.
No, it's fine now. Muted. Now it's not coming back. All right. So
On
which
account
object?
industry,
All right.
in the account,
It should be an
it
account. So
should be
if you
on
have to
account.
write the trigger for this,
Yeah.
we should be talking about trigger name can be anything. Let's say
Um, am I
education.
audible at all?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, you are. You are.
Okay, okay, great.
Object will be account. Now, what will be the event here? Which event shall we put this trigger on?
Mm, after insert,
After the insert. Very good.
after.
Very good. But once the record is created, what will you do throwing error after the insert has happened?
Okay.
And that's why are we throwing error? Because we don't want that record to be created, right? But if we perform it after insert, then what
Before.
will happen? The record has already got into the system. We don't want to throw error after the record has got into the system, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we get into office, the security wala stands outside the door, right? Outside the main gate. Someone has got into
Yeah.
the office, then security check will not matter that much, right? So
Okay.
this should be
So
before
insert
insert.
means it should be on the database,
Insert, yeah.
right?
Record being inserted
Okay.
into the database. So this should be after insert or before insert?
This should be before insert, as
Okay,
we
before
want
insert.
to validate the data before the data has been inserted into the database.
That's
Jeet,
how it
I'm
should be.
sorry. Can you please repeat that whole thing again? I'm a bit lost. If the industry of account is education, throw error.
Yes. So I just want that anytime an account is being created, I want my trigger to go ahead and check whether the what is the industry of that account, and if the industry of the account is education, then it should throw error.
Okay.
Make sense?
Okay. Okay. Yep. Yep. So now we are writing a trigger, and the trigger we are going to write would be before insert because.
Because we want the trigger to fire before insert. So when do you want the trigger to fire out of these seven statements? Definitely delete and undelete are out of scope here.
Out of stress. Update is also maybe update
Update,
and insert.
yeah. To some extent, yeah, you might want to do it on update also, but even if you are using it with update, will you use after the update has happened or before the update has happened?
Before the update has happened.
Great. So that's it. So
Oh,
your event can be before insert, before update. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is gonna be your. Now you have to write the code here. Okay. What you want to do that needs to be written here. But overall trigger syntax has come. Now this code, this bit of code, the code block will get executed before a new account is created and before an account is updated.
Okay.
Clear on this? Any doubts, questions? Now come to the code block part. What code we have to write for the same scenario? How do you think we are going to write the code? You guys know Apex. How will you write the code for it? I've told you what exactly you have to check. Industry of account is uh, education or not, that's what I have to check. So how are you going to write the code for it? What should we write for the code?
That would be in.
You guys, if you want, you can try to write it in your notepad or notebook somewhere.
mm-hmm.
Try to formulate it a little and tell me what code should I write.
Uh, we need to have a list of accounts which
Yeah.
are
You write it,
duly inserted.
no, no, write it, and or maybe type it in the chat window, give it so that I'll just copy and put it here. Everyone, I want everyone to try something. It's a very simple thing. I just want to check whether the account industry is education or not. So that's what we have to write. Just try to formulate this code. And I know that whatever you are going to write, most probably that will be wrong. So don't worry about that being wrong. But I want you to start using logics. All that I have to do is I just have to go and check if the industry of the account which is being inserted, industry of account, when I say industry of account, you will say which account? The one which is being inserted is education or not, or whatever my logic is. Okay. Now whatever criteria I have to check or whatever I have to do, I have to do it on the. Can we have the microphones muted, please? Okay, Rachna? Yeah, thank you. Okay, so whatever I have to do, I have to do on the record which is being inserted or which is being updated or which is being deleted, correct? So it will be fair to call those records as records in context, correct?
Say that again,
Now,
please, Chief.
sorry.
Can you say that again, please? So,
So whatever logic you have to execute, that needs to be executed on the record which is in context, correct?
yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
one which
yeah,
is being inserted, the one which is being deleted, or the one which is being updated, that record needs to be
yeah.
checked, right?
Okay.
So Salesforce makes your life easy. They give you a variable which is called a context variable. It's called trigger.new. So this is a predefined context variable. Predefined variable, this is also called context variable. What does this context variable do? This context variable holds the value of the records in context. The record which are being inserted, those will be stored in this variable. Okay. So the current set of accounts which are being created, that will get stored in trigger.new. It can be a set of accounts, it can be one account. So that gets stored in trigger.new. Correct. So what is this trigger.new? Trigger.new is a variable which returns set of records in context.
So something like what we create where var equal to a, and then we call that var. Is it similar to that?
Yeah, similar to that. So that's also a variable, this is also a variable. But this is a predefined variable. Trigger.new is a predefined variable which will return automatically the set of records which are in context. Alright. Now what you have to do? All that you have to do is you just have to go and check trigger.new, all the records in trigger.new if any one of them has industry education or not. Sorry. Correct. That's what I have to do. I have a variable which stores all the records which are in context. All that I have to do is I just have to go and check whether all those records are getting executed properly. Sorry, all those records or any of those records have industry education or not. That's what I have to do. Correct. That's it. So for doing that, you just have to now the problem is that trigger.new is not one record. This is a list of records.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you cannot go and say if trigger dot new dot industry, so we cannot go and say trigger dot new dot industry equals education. Can we say this? Can I do this comparison? No, right?
No.
Why? Because this is list of records. This is not a single record.
Yeah. And this could be of any object, right?
This can be of any object, that's fine. But
Yeah. It does not
the
specify accounts.
yeah, but the first factor is that this is a list. Okay, I cannot compare a list with a single value.
Okay.
So what I have to do, I have to just go ahead and change this.
List of.
I just have to say for count A, I will put it inside a loop, trigger dot new. Okay, so what I do is I define one S object A, which is one instance of trigger
Hmm?
dot new. So if trigger dot new has 10 records, A is just one of those records. Okay, and I will go and check if a dot industry, because now a is a single record, so I can go and check if a dot industry is equals to education or not. This can be done, and because I put it in the for loop, this loop will run for each record. Every time it will go and check, and if the industry is education, it will throw an error. To throw an error, there is a method, predefined method again, which is called add error. So you can say a dot add error, whatever error message. That's it. So
So
this is the code that I
okay,
have to put in trigger. Yeah, go ahead.
okay. So that's the only. I mean, that's pretty much the code for any trigger I'm going to write. That's how I'm going to write.
Uh, no, sorry, I cannot understand.
Or
Again, what exactly you are trying to ask?
no. So let's say for any other S object or any other custom or standard objects, pretty much outside account A, or let's say what are the other S objects we have? Let's say campaign A, and then semicolon trigger dot new, and then if A dot campaign
Yes.
is equal to whatever. So that's the same code. All we are doing is just changing
Trigger.new will
custom
return
objects.
the set of records for that particular
Yeah.
subject on which you are writing the trigger.
Okay.
Fine. So after that, what you have to do, you just have to define a for loop and you'll have to check individual record. Now, this is how it's going to be. This is going to be your structure, more or less, at least,
Okay.
for your initial understanding, this is what the
Okay.
structure is going to be. Trigger.new is the context variable which is the list. You'll have to define. You'll have to define the for loop to make sure that you're checking individual records, and after that you whatever logic you want to execute. If you want to check the industry, along with that you want to go and check the revenue. If you want to check something else, some other thing, whatever you want to do,
Yeah. Oh.
and then whatever output you want to do, do you want to add through an error, not through error, all that text, right? So this is more or less going to be the structure. All the triggers should be written with a for loop. Why? Because the trigger will be all the triggers need to be bulk triggers. Bulk trigger means all the triggers need to be bulk triggers. Bulk triggers means they should be defined with the scope of handling multiple records. Why? So that your trigger works good even if it is a bulk operation, bulk data operation which is happening from the back. So it should not work only for first record and the second record should not, it's not working. So that's the thing. That's the reason why trigger.new, that default variable that salesforce.com has given, is list of records. By default, it's list of records. It will work good for one record also because the loop will run only once. Now tell me what is the problem or what is the doubt in this particular code from here till here. Are we clear on this? Anyone, any questions? Let me know.
Yes,
I have a question.
I'm clear with it. Mhm.
Okay, Rachna. Yeah,
Uh,
Pankaj. Go ahead.
Actually, we write like for count A and trigger.new. In this, the trigger.new will actually give us all the new accounts which are inserted into the system. So
No,
what I wanted to
no,
ask was,
no, no,
can
no.
we write it out?
Pankaj, can you hear me?
Hello? Yeah, I can.
Ah, so it will not give you all the new accounts which have been inserted into the system. It will give
Okay.
you the list of records which are in context, which are being inserted.
Which are being inserted.
Yeah. So whenever an insert operation happening, the records which are being inserted, it will return that list.
So if I try to insert an account, then that account will be given in this list. Yeah,
Yeah. Before the insert happens.
before the insert happens. So
Yeah.
what I wanted to ask was, we are uh, see, for governor limit purposes, we do not write these inside for loops and all. That is what I read it before a few months.
Hmm.
So can we implement that it over here so that we can reduce the exceptions and all? Hello.
Hmm. Abhi,
What I meant was, here actually what we are doing is we are just checking if the industry field is education or not. So in this field, this cannot be applied. But suppose that we are doing something else, like we are doing a DML operation on list of records uh, on after trigger or something like that. So in that case, can we write it outside the for loop and then do these operations? Because there will be a slight change in the context which you said.
hmm. That's correct. That's absolutely correct. So, but okay. So, your understanding is correct.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Apart from that, do we have any other question? For guys who could
Yeah, I
not
just wanted to
understand
know
what he was
because I
asking,
had gone.
if you could not
Yeah,
understand what he was asking, just you can
yeah, I did not
park it for
understand
some
what he
time.
was.
We will talk about that
Okay, and I
later.
just wanted to know what are the best practices, like, for writing a trigger, because I have heard that there are so many governor limits on each thing.
देखो यही
What
प्रॉब्लम होता
is
है,
the
इसीलिए
best
पंकज जी
way
मैं आपको
to
बोल रहा था कि
achieve
जो
that?
बात हम कर रहे हैं उस बात पे फोकस करते हैं. Now we are not even talking about
Okay.
Delhi, we are talking about some part of Gujarat. अहमदाबाद पहुंच गए हम लोग. Governor limit is not the topic for today. Topic for today is trigger. Fine. There are no best
Hmm.
practices, no governor limit for trigger. There are governor limits in general. Fine.
Yeah.
So that's a general practice. So those general practices we will talk. First of all, let's understand the trigger. Context variable समझ में आया नहीं अभी हम लोग governor limits के लिए वो कर रहे हैं. let's not deviate from the topic. Again, I'm actually trying to bring you guys back on the track that we are focusing on trigger. Let's understand trigger, governor limits, all those things we are going to talk in the session. Why are we talking about governor limits? What you have read, just leave it with your own study, and when we come to that topic, then we will talk about it. We
Yes.
talk about governor limit. Now Rachna is confused. Rachna talks about best practices of FX. Best practices of FX is something which is not specific to trigger, right? Best
Yeah.
practices of trigger कुछ नहीं होता. The best practices is of Apex. So whether you are writing a method or a class or a trigger, you should implement that. Or if you feel that no, we are already fine with Apex trigger thing, please skip this topic. So I can skip this topic and go to the next topic. But I'm not very sure if you guys
No,
feel that way.
no.
No, we can
So
go ahead with triggers. Yeah.
focus on trigger. Try and understand. If I'm talking about this particular scenario, it's not that it takes me any additional effort in putting one very complex scenario in front of you and talk about all the logics and all the concepts of Salesforce in one trigger, right? It's not a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
difficult thing for me. For me, it's why would I need to spend so much time explaining these small things? Because I want you to understand concept. Again, coming back to the same thing. So let's focus on the concept. Governor limit is a matter of one session. You guys will understand. Not even one session. Fine. So we'll come to that. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
Are we okay on this now?
Sorry, Jeet, can I quickly suggest something if that's all right?
Yeah, you suggest something.
Okay. So just to avoid any of these confusions or these kind of questions, maybe if you just want to start with the agenda of what you're going to teach, based on which we can then post or park our questions for those sessions that we can look forward for. Maybe because this
Agenda is
trigger
there right at the
has
top. Starting of the session, you
huh,
said that epic trigger.
nahi, true. What I meant by that is now Apex trigger or trigger would be a vast subject, right? So maybe Apex trigger in that would you be going ahead with? So today is the basic concept, and the next thing would be a bit more complex, and then whatever those other topics in trigger that you want to touch base, maybe you just want to highlight those. Then based on that, I think it would be clear for rather than not asking all the trigger questions and then just start with the basic trigger questions for the other guys as well. That's just my suggestion. But yeah, if you just tell us like okay, fine, today would be Apex triggers, which is the basic concept, because I don't know nothing about Apex trigger. I don't know if
Same.
that there is another further complexity or further variations in Apex trigger. I had no clue about it. You just said Apex trigger. I'm just taking it as Apex trigger. But when the guys around are asking questions, so maybe that's when it is getting a bit like we need to know, as in today's Apex triggers, a basic concept. Next thing would be Apex
Okay,
governor
so
rules.
let's
That is another
okay.
thing. So that kind
Naren,
of a
got
thing.
your
Maybe
point.
that's all I'm
Naren,
saying.
got your
Yeah.
point. So let's keep it simple, guys. So again, Naren, you are confusing yourself. Don't get confused. There are no
No,
two
no,
apex
not
triggers.
confused at all.
There is only one apex trigger. Okay, don't get
Right.
confused. कुछ यहाँ पे टीवी सीरियल नहीं चल रहा है कि there is a good boy, there is a bad boy, there is a double role कुछ नहीं है. Apex trigger is
No, no,
apex trigger.
definitely not.
So there are no different
Yes.
layers of apex trigger. Only one layer of apex trigger. That's it. So far, whatever
Yeah.
sessions we have done, what is the problem? I do not understand. What in which session I have told you
What
that
is
today is the simple part of standard controller, tomorrow is difficult part of standard controller? No, right? Just focus on the concept. That's it. Apex trigger is just one concept. We are going to talk about it. We will start with the basics. That's what we are doing. We have started with a small example. Fine. So just keep
yeah.
it very, very simple. There is the question that comes from someone else. In case you guys feel that you are not understanding the other question, because I do not know. I mean, before Pankaj asks a question, I do not know. Pankaj, aap theek ho? You are okay with the topics that we are
I'm
discussing
okay.
today?
Yeah.
With the topics that we are
Yeah,
discussing
definitely.
today?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, it may happen that if Pankaj is asking a question or Naren might ask a question which is slightly different. I mean, I cannot stop you guys from asking questions. In case, my suggestion, for someone who does not understand what the other person is asking, please avoid that question. because the other person might have read something and he is asking in that context. You can ignore that question. So you don't have to start worrying about that. Okay, fine. That is the second level of trigger. There is no second, third, fourth level questioning, and there is only one level of trigger. That's it. There are 4 5 concepts that you have to understand, and after that, all those 4 concepts are going to be used in the apex trigger throughout your life. Fine. So agenda for today is apex trigger. That is what we are going to do. That is what we are going to discuss. There is no other apex trigger. There is only one apex trigger.
No,
Fine.
I mean, see, I understand that, Jeet, definitely not telling you
Yeah,
apex
it
trigger or
doesn't.
something
So
because
what
I
is the
don't know
confusion?
the next. I don't. There's no confusion. I didn't have any confusion. I was just saying maybe because of the complexity of the questions, maybe you can just say, look, today's the basic thing and anything related to this, and
That's what I actually think.
maybe something on that
That's what
side.
I
Yeah.
tried to tell Pankaj 2 3 times, but I do not know how he's actually relating things to it. Governor limit is a topic which is different topic, so don't worry about that. We will talk about that in our sessions. So if you don't understand, let's just not listen to that. For people who do not understand, that's the reason why I did not answer his question, and I just said okay, fine, whatever you understand is okay for now. Fine. So the worst thing will be that if the person who does not know the topic, he starts getting confused that acha, apex trigger is something related to this. It is not related to anything. This is what we are talking about in apex trigger, and this is what we have in apex trigger. Fine. Let's focus completely on apex trigger. Let's be good in apex trigger first, and then we'll talk about other things. Fine. All on the same
Yeah.
page.
Mm-hmm.
क्या कितना कंफ्यूजन है
Yep.
आप लोगों को चलो नो प्रॉब्लम Abhi, we are okay with this trigger. All right. So this is an example that we have written. We understand context variable, we understand trigger.new, and we understand that the error that we are going to throw. Now, where do you write the apex trigger? We have written it in the notepad right now, but in Salesforce, where exactly we are going to write it? Rachna, where will we write
I
it?
have seen something as triggers. Under
Where?
setup, I have seen something like triggers. So we could go
Mhm.
there, click on new trigger and then paste it there. I think so.
Okay.
I think I have changed the password. I
Give me
forwarded
the
it to you.
password now. New one.
Yeah, I sent it.
Text chat window में put कर दो.
Yeah, I have done it. So did you get it?
Yes. Just got it. I think you need to give me the verification code also.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. That's it.
नहीं हो गया लॉकडाउन.
Yeah.
All right. So where do we need to write the trigger? Code wise we are okay. Syntax and everything we have understood. Where do we need to write it? Because this is a trigger for account, you'll have to go to setup,
So there is
customize,
a
account, triggers.
Okay.
Okay. For whichever object you want to write the trigger,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have to go to setup, customize, account, trigger. Click on new.
setup. Setup.
Setup, customize. Whichever
Yeah.
object you want to write the trigger on, you just have to go to that object and you have to click on triggers under that.
Acha. Okay.
Mm.
This time
So
we want to write
if
it
I
for account, so we go to account and
yeah.
triggers. Fine.
Okay. Great. Okay.
Now
Okay.
you see the basic syntax already appears here.
Mm-hmm.
Trigger, name, on account, event. I'll just put my entire code here. So, see, the code is ready, saved it. Now this trigger will do what? Whenever a new record is being created or whenever a record is being updated, which has industry education, then it will throw me an error message. industry. Okay. Try to save this. It's throwing an error, right? It's throwing an error, which means such account number is a mandatory field. Let's for this. Now this error message has come for my trigger.
It should be, yeah.
Now this is coming for my trigger. Alright. So see how it works now. Alright. Now if you look into this, no, sorry. Go to the trigger code. If you go back to the trigger code, or go back to the trigger basically, to the name of the trigger, right? You will see that this trigger is currently active. Okay, a trigger will work only if it is active. A trigger which is not active will not work. Alright, a trigger will work only if the trigger is active. If it is not active, it's not gonna work. So this trigger is active, so it will work. If you don't want the trigger to work, sometimes it may happen that you have written a trigger and you just want to store the code. You don't want the code to get executed right now, so you will just keep it, make it inactive. Fine, more or less like a validation rule or a workflow rule. So that's there. Now, this trigger works absolutely fine in both the cases, in case of an insert as well as update. So let's try it for update. See, throws error message, right? When you're trying to update, at that time also if the industry is education, it throws error. Yeah.
Okay, did we make any changes there, Jeet, with the code? We didn't do any changes, right?
No, I just made it
Okay.
inactive and then activated it back. That's it.
Okay.
All right.
Does that make any difference? Inactive, as in, what I meant was, do we have to do that every time, even for an existing account, and if we are updating an existing record?
No, no, no. The trigger was made inactive because I was showing you that if you don't want the trigger to
Yeah,
fire,
yeah,
then you should make it
yeah,
active.
yeah, yeah,
That's it.
yeah, yeah.
So that was
Okay,
just to show you guys. All right.
okay, okay.
Okay. So now let's write a trigger, small activity for you guys.
Yeah,
So I want you to write a trigger which throws error. Okay, trigger on opportunity. Okay, and this trigger should check if amount is less than 10,000, it should throw error. Okay, so this is the trigger that I want you to write. All right, so let me define, let me display the trigger that I've written. I want you guys to write a trigger for opportunity, same kind of trigger. This is for account. The one that I want you to write is for opportunity. Here's the code. Can we do it quickly?
yeah.
The next thing that we're going to talk is a few more context variable. What's a context variable? Pankaj, what is a context variable? Am I audible? Yeah. What's a context variable, Pankaj? Naren, what's a context variable?
Context variable is the trigger.new, which returns set of records in context.
Which returns? What is
Uh,
trigger.new return, Rachna?
it returns set of records in context. It
I
is
think
list
it
of
returns
records.
the records which are just been creating. I
Which
mean,
are
which are
just being
under process.
created, right? Right.
Yeah.
So the records in
Yeah.
context, correct.
If if we try to define it, it will be like it's a variable assigned to the records which are in context.
Right. Very good. So now trigger.new is not the only context variable. Okay, there are a few more context variables. Now,
Okay.
if I go by the trigger.new, in case of an insert and update operation. Okay, so trigger.new will return the records which are in context, and this will work in case of an insert and update operation. Okay, trigger.old is the context variable which will work in case of an
Existing record.
update and delete operation.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so whenever delete operation is happening, so that is where you use trigger.old. So if you want to execute some code before a record is deleted, then your context variable is going to be trigger.old, which will return you the record which has been deleted. Okay. Apart from these, context variable, there are a few more. There is something called trigger.isInsert. Okay. This is a Boolean type variable. Boolean type means it can return only true or false. It will return true, returns true if the trigger got fired due to an insert operation. Okay, so if the trigger was fired due to an insert operation, then this trigger.insert will return true. Same way, you have trigger.isUpdate. Same way, you have trigger.isDelete. Same way, you have trigger.isUndelete. Same way, you have trigger.isBefore, and we have trigger.isAfter. Okay, and you know what exactly all these context variable are gonna return. Is update will return true if it's an update. It has got triggered due to an update operation. Is delete will return true if it's a delete operation. If it's an undelete, if it's before operation, and if it's an after operation. Alright, so this is what we have. So these are a few more context variables. So these Boolean methods will basically return true, all these, depending on what operation actually fired the trigger. Alright, when will we need this? Why will we need this? This one we understand, trigger.new, trigger.old, is basically returning the values in context so that I can take the values and then I can do whatever I want to do with those values. What will we do with these? Okay. So you just did an example for opportunity. I'll change my requirement. I told you a requirement that if I want to throw error, if amount is less than 10,000, throw an error. Correct? That's what my logic was. Now I'm just trying to change this logic. Let me make this a little different. For a new opportunity, if amount less than 10k, throw error. For an existing opportunity which is already there but update is happening, for an existing opportunity amount is less than 5k, throw an error. Okay, so far what you did, same logic for both the events,
Yep.
the update one and for the insert. Now I want two different logics to execute. Okay, I want to for a new record which is being created, for that I want to check a different logic or I want to perform a different action in that case. And for an existing record which is being updated, this can be the situation, right? When working in a company and a company is taking order, you can have a
Yep.
limitation on how much can be the size of a new order and what can be the size of an existing order. You've already taken an order and you're making some modifications in that. So there can be different limits for that. Correct? So in this case, you can use one of these context variables. So all that you have to do is, so I think Pankaj, you have written this opportunity wala trigger, na? It's there in your uh, developer
Yeah,
org.
I have written.
What's the name of the trigger?
Yeah. Uh, it's OP5.
OP5. Fine. Now this trigger works same for both these events, before insert and before update. For both these events, it's gonna work the same logic. Okay. Now my requirement is different. Now I'm going to change this. So all that I have to do is I have to use those context variables, the one that returns the boolean. I have to use that and I'll have to change this. So I'll have to write if trigger dot is insert. So it will check if it's an insert trigger and the amount is less than 10,000, then it should throw error, right? Should not be less than 10,000 for new records. Let's say this is the error message I want to throw. Else, if trigger dot is update, so I'm checking if it's an update trigger and o dot amount is less than 5,000, so you write we dot add error. So it says this cannot be less than 5,000 for updated records. Now right? So with my context variable trigger dot is insert and trigger dot is update, I am checking whether that trigger got fired due to an insert operation or update operation, and based on that particular event which called the trigger, based on that I am performing my action. So now let me go to an opportunity. This is the opportunity. I edit this. I make the amount less than 10,000. Make it 8,000. Save it. It gets saved. Why? Because it's an update operation, right? Make it 4,000. Save. Amount should not be less than 5,000 for updated records. Fine. But if you are creating a new opportunity,
Mm.
it will only take amount which is more than 10,000. It will not take 8,000 also. See? Achha. Everyone's this. Save. Amount should not be less than 10,000 for new records.
Mm.
Fine, is it clear? So, do we understand the context variables and how to use the context variables? So now we know how to use these ones and we know how to use these ones also. So this way you can have, let's say before insert you want to check something and after insert you want to perform some action. Alright, let's say before the account gets inserted, in this particular example, we are talking about two events, before insert, before update. Okay, you can have a trigger which works both the sides. Before insert you want to validate the data, after the insert you want to perform something else. Let's say uh, you know based on the opportunity you want to grade the account. So whenever an opportunity is created, think about it. When an opportunity is created which has an amount more than let's say 100,000, I want to go and grade account, make it a category account because
Okay.
I have got an opportunity from it which is more than 100,000. Or when an opportunity stage is converted to closed one, I want to go and change the status or type of the account to customer, something like that. Okay, so that's an after insert trigger. If I say that if stage of an opportunity is closed one, update the account type to customer. I want to write a trigger which should check when an opportunity is updated to closed one, and it should go and update the account type to customer. Now you guys tell me, on which object shall I write the trigger? On account or on opportunity? This trigger should be written on account or opportunity. Got the logic what I'm trying to do, right? When the opportunity status or
Yeah.
stage name is converted to closed one, definitely it means we have got the deal from the account, right? Now I want to go and change the type of the account to customer because now it
You
has
write
become
it on account.
it
Yeah,
will
you
write it
need
on
to
account.
write it on a
Yes, according to me.
because it's just fetching the value from
Okay.
days.
Spend one
Mm.
more time, 1 more minute on it
Oh.
and
No,
think
no, 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 no,
properly
no. Okay.
how
I
the
think
flow
on
is going.
opportunity
It is
because
opportunity
it's
because
getting edited, right?
that is
Yeah.
where it is triggering the
DML is
outcome
happening
on
where?
account.
On which object?
Yeah.
DML is happening on which object? It's happening on
Opportunity.
opportunity. and I am
Sorry, what is
triggering
that?
the event on the DML of opportunity. There is a DML which will happen on account also,
Okay,
but that's an
DML.
after
Okay,
effect, correct?
After it triggers, yeah.
So this should be
okay,
written on opportunity. Fine.
okay,
And what
okay.
will be the
Yeah.
event?
It should be
After update,
Okay.
right?
And after update and after insert.
after
After
insert.
yeah, after update and after insert. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Very good. So basically, what you have to do is you have to write a trigger on opportunity, check the stage name of the opportunity whenever it is being inserted or updated. After the opportunity is saved, you check that and then you go ahead and make the changes on the related account, the parent account of it, right? So in this case, when you're writing the trigger, then it will be like this: trigger, let's say op1 on opportunity, and we might have one more logic that we want to consider. Let's say before insert, I want to check whether the amount is less than 10,000 or not, which we already written, right? So
Mm-hmm.
now this trigger will fire on before insert, it will fire on after insert, and this will also fire
Mm-hmm.
on
After update.
after update.
Mhm.
This will also fire on before update,
Before update.
right? So you can, whenever you want, you can actually now go ahead and write your logics, the context variables you can use to check what is the exact DML statement which called this trigger. So let's say you want to say after insert this should happen. So you should say if
If after
trigger
trigger dot
is after
insert.
and
Mhm.
trigger dot is insert. So if it's an after and insert, so this means after insert. Got it? Some if you write is after and is insert, which means it's an after insert trigger. And some other logic, then do this or something like that. Right? Got it? Are we clear on this?
Yes. How do we write it for account type to? So how do we change that? Once it is, once we change the outcome on opportunity as closed one, how does that, then trigger and update it automatically onto account type to customer?
That again you have to think on how will you write that?
We have to write one more trigger dot here, I guess.
No, you are working with an opportunity O. Okay.
Yeah,
You check
Yeah.
yeah.
what is the stage of that opportunity. After that, from that opportunity, can you not fetch the parent account of that opportunity?
Yes, we can.
Right?
So in the same, yeah, O dot account
Yeah.
dot account type equal to customer.
Yes.
Something like that.
Right.
Right?
Let's say I'll just give you some hint on this, but let's say I'm writing this opportunity O in trigger.now. Let's say, and inside this loop, what you'll have to do is if O dot stage name equals whatever, something that we want to check. Then you can say account A equals select type
Mm-hmm.
from account where
Mm-hmm.
ID equals O dot account ID. Correct? Something like this, right? And then go and update the thing.
Mhm.
A dot type equals customer, yes, and then update A. Correct?
Hmm.
That's it.
I have a question, G sir.
Yep, tell me.
The
Yeah, go ahead.
The SQL which we write here, account A is equal to select type from account where ID is equal to O dot account ID. I want you to explain this. What will it return actually?
It will return the account
So this portion, the
where
ID is equal to O dot account ID. This is not clear. That is what I wanted to understand.
O is what? O is an
O
opportunity.
is an opportunity. Yeah.
One opportunity, there's a field called account ID, right? Which will have the ID of the parent account. Correct?
Okay.
So I want to fetch the account for which, let's say, you have a account IBM. ID of the IBM account is 89. Okay. Under that,
Yeah.
you have an opportunity of 1. Okay. So
Yeah.
account ID for this is going to be what? 89.
89.
So ID of IBM equals to account ID of opportunity. So that's what we are trying to do
Yeah. So it's just to fetch the exact account associated with that
with
record.
that opportunity, right? The parent record of that opportunity. That's it.
Mhm.
Yeah. And one more thing I wanted to ask, as this account and opportunities are in relationship with each other, that's the reason we are able to do it. We won't be able to do it with the custom objects which are not in relationship with each other. Yeah.
See, when you're writing program, you can do whatever you want. But if you
Okay.
have to fetch the parent record, then there has to be relationship.
Okay.
If if I am
Hmm.
telling you that okay, I want you to update only the account which is associated to that opportunity, then there has to be a relationship. Otherwise, what will you go and update, right?
Yeah.
But if you want, because you are the one who is writing the program, now here you become the script writer. Whatever you
Yeah.
want to write, you can do that. But if the requirement is to go and update the related record, then there should be a relationship. But if the company says, let's say, I mean, just giving you one example out
Yeah.
of context. Think that the company says, even if one opportunity has, what do you say? From one opportunity, we have got a deal of let's say $1 million. Go and check industry of that opportunity and update all the accounts of that particular industry. So this is where
Hmm.
there is no relationship between it, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Correct. So you can do that. You do not have a restriction here because now you are the one who is writing program. So you know that okay, from that particular opportunity in context, I can fetch the industry. I can go and write an SQL query on account object to fetch all the records from the account object from the same industry, and then I can do whatever I want with those. I want to delete all those things. So because you are writing the program, you are not dependent on the uh, relationship anymore. But logic is dependent on the relationship. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Movies, when you go to watch, the writer does not have to make sense. But yeah, for viewers, he makes sense. That will be good. So that's how it is. So here we are not restricted to relationships, as in case of validation and workflows and formulas, because they work only with relationship. Here you can write whatever. This opportunity gets created, you want to go and update all the campaigns, you can do that. You're not restricted to the relationship, but your logics most of the times will require some relationship, and only the records with relationship should be updated. That's the logic part.
Uh,
Programming
yeah.
allows you to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
I
So
have
if we
another
have,
question
Yeah, go ahead.
after
I'll,
Jason.
yeah, no
Pankaj,
problem.
you complete. Yeah.
Yeah, you go ahead. I was actually thinking about some other thing.
So
So
when do we use trigger.old?
For a
Thought
delete,
in this scenario we might use trigger.hold.
if you're working with a delete operation, write trigger.hold to fetch the records which are in context, which are being deleted, before delete, after delete.
Sorry, what was your question? When will we
She's
use
saying when will we use
which?
trigger.hold?
Oh, trigger.hold. Okay,
So
okay.
whenever you are trying to delete record, now this was before insert, check if the industry is education or not, right? Same way, if I give you a logic that okay, before an account is deleted, check if the industry is education, don't delete it, throw an error. Then same code, but your context variable is going to be trigger.hold. Correct?
Okay. There are a couple of questions I have. One I think can be a silly ones, but um, now with that question, can we now if we have to find out what are the, let's say, okay, this is the first question. I will come back to the next one. So does this work similar to custom objects? Is there a different? Will there be
Same,
any?
same,
I can
same.
use any custom objects. Okay, there is no
Absolutely.
variation in this one, right? Okay.
No.
Okay, that's good.
And what? Okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
done.
Okay. Any other questions or doubts on this? It's a very simple thing. Okay, there is one more small concept. Now, since we are talking about before, after, insert, update, context variable, a lot of things, and there is a small concept that I want you guys to keep in mind that
Mhm.
we say that there are two types of triggers actually: before triggers
After.
and after triggers. Okay. Why I'm calling them two types of triggers, I'll tell you. Before triggers will be used for validating the values.
Okay.
Okay, before trigger will always be used for validating values and any updates that you want to make into that record. As we were doing, check, validate, throw error, or any updates that you want to do in that particular record before it is inserted, right? So let's say you have a logic in your company that by default, if there is no value given, for the industry, by default it should be taken as IT. Let's say that's the logic. So in that case, what you'll have to do, you can just do something like this. If you say a dot industry equals null or is null, you just want to go and update industry to something. Go and update industry equals IT. Let's say this is what you want to do. Okay. So this is all you have to do. You don't have to write an update statement here because it's or insert update statement here. Nothing needs to be done because anyhow the record is going to be inserted after this. So if you assign this value, it will automatically be taken. Got it? So this is all that you have to do.
Okay, so we can write a trigger without event also in this too.
No, no, I'm not saying that you can write a trigger without event. I'm saying that in case, see, the trigger that we have written in that we have validated the data. In case before the data gets inserted, you want to make any update, you can write this kind of statements to update the data also. Some value to be supplied to something that can be done. All right. So any validation or data updation on the record in context needs to be done with before trigger. You cannot update the values with the after trigger. You cannot update the values of that record with after trigger because once the record gets inserted or updated exactly after the DML operation, that record, the one which was in context, that gets uh,
Headed
locked.
change.
That gets locked. You can change, you
That gets
can
what, sorry?
create, you can do something else on some other record in the database, but not on the same record. Got it? So any updates and all those things should be done on before trigger. Okay? In case any update is required. Think of a small scenario. Let's say in account you are taking the city. Okay. And based on city, you just want to go ahead and update the country, for example. So you
Okay. Yeah.
if a dot city equals Mumbai,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and then you just want to go and say that a dot country should become equals
To
to
go
India. So
India.
this should be done in the before trigger itself.
But then we could. Yeah. Okay. Fine.
So you cannot say that, okay, after insert I will go and check the cities Mumbai and then update, because after the insert happens, this record will get locked. Correct? So
Mm-hmm.
anytime you have any requirement of updating the same record which is in context, it should be done with before trigger. After trigger is meant for making changes on the other part of the database but not on that same record. That record gets locked. Very simple logic. So any validation, any updates on the same
Yeah.
record needs to be done before trigger. After trigger will be only used for updating related records or not related records. Anything in the database can be edited, not that record. Alright.
So is there a way around what you said? Once the record is logged, is there a way around getting that rectified again, or
No, that record gets locked for that, for the duration of that trigger execution. After that, the record is open again.
okay, okay,
During that execution of the trigger,
okay,
it gets locked. So it, once the insert has happened, then in that span of that trigger getting executed, that record
yeah,
will stay locked.
okay,
It makes sense now, because during that trigger execution, after insert again, if you do not lock the record, then it will be what is it? It will end up having inconsistent database, because you
yeah,
allowed the entry based on some logic,
yeah,
and after that
yeah,
you changed it. So
yeah.
this will become a problematic
That
situation.
is
For that reason,
true. Hmm.
the record gets locked just for that trigger situation. Next time when you try to update it, or whatever you try to do it, then again the trigger will get fired. So at that time the trigger will see what is doable or not doable. Correct? So it's getting locked only for that span.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
So there is something like memory allocation in this part. Like if you wanted to do after update, then what you a certain memory for that specific record, and then you update it. Is there something like that?
Tell me again. Sorry, go ahead.
Uh, uh, Actually, I was just reading through what is the difference between before and after triggers. So
Mm-hmm.
the person was saying that while doing after triggers, what in this the thing which you explained before, that is the record is locked.
Mm-hmm.
So he said that you will allocate a memory for that and then you will update it, something like that. Is it the scenario in this type, something for after triggers?
Not sure what exactly you're talking about, but let's understand it not from the memory allocation point of view. Let's understand this from the simple perspective that the record which calls the trigger, that record cannot be updated on the after trigger event. Whatever you have to do it
Okay.
is on the before trigger. Whatever you have to do on that record. Fine. Rest,
Yeah.
whatever you want to do in the other database, that's what, see, basically what is happening now. The logic is pretty simple. This is my record, right?
Hmm.
Now, this record is, till the time it does not get into the database, till the time it does not get a chair in the database, till that time this record is in the air, okay? So it's not stable. It can be rejected, it can get inserted. So till that time, whatever you have to do here, you make changes on this. Once it has got into the database, which means now this is a permanent thing for this database for now, for the time being, right? Now, once this thing has happened, so till the time this record was not sure about its existence in the database, that I will, whether I will get a chance to go and sit in the database or not. Till that time, it was not possible for me to go and update anything else in the entire database. So till that time, this entire database I cannot change based on this, because this record itself is not sure whether it will get saved or not. Right?
Okay.
before insert तो इसका खुद का position fix नहीं है ना, तो it cannot go and affect, right? Now once its
So it always
position
has
is,
to be after.
yeah, so all other changes need to be done after, because till that time it was not fixed. Now after it gets a position in the database, now it's time for other records to get updated based on this. Now I cannot go and change it, because if I change it, then the database becomes inconsistent. It got entry based on some criteria, and after entering, if it changes the criteria, that will be a problem. So like you going for a job interview. Now till the time you have not got into the company, you are not allowed to go and make changes in the project, right? The moment you got into the job, now because you have selected based on some criteria, you cannot go into the job and say that no, this salary I will not take, I will take double of what you come. Now your salary gets blocked there. Got it? Now, anything else that needs to be changed around can be changed by keeping that thing fixed. So earlier, the entire database was fixed, and after insert, this particular thing becomes fixed. One of the things we'll have to keep fixed, right? So before trigger, the entire database is fixed. Only that record is being checked, validated, updated. After trigger, that record becomes fixed. Everything around it can be updated. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, just get it from the logical point of view. That's it. Now your life should be easy with the triggers.
So what?
Mhm.
So what